welcome to episode 15 of the Woldenburn podcast. It is so lovely to have you here today. I am Emily and I am going to be talking about some sewing and knitting and general projects that I've been working on in the last couple of weeks since I last published a podcast. It's been a pretty chill, quiet day today. It's very rainy and overcast. The April showers bring May flowers is definitely true for here in Tennessee. I haven't been doing too much today, just a little bit of odds and ends and chores and working on some different projects, which I'm excited to show you really quick. You can kind of sort of see it underneath of my cardigan, but I am wearing my Jennifer Lauren handmade Asteria dress that I finished a couple weeks ago. I love this dress so much. It is so comfortable and cozy and warm. I made it out of a flannel fabric from Joann Fabrics. And it's covered with all these little woodland animals that you can kind of see. The fox and deer. There's bunnies and hedgehogs and all those amazing things. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. I have some knitting projects to show you. And I'm going to mention a crochet project. I didn't actually bring it up here to show it to you because it kind of looks the same. It's just a little bit longer. And then I have a couple of sewing projects, and then we're going to talk about what I've been reading recently and what I've been watching. Let's jump into the knitting. First things first, I guess we'll talk about this one. I am in the process of test knitting a pattern for Emily of the Blue Mouse. She is in the process of developing a series of basic knitting pattern videos, and she put out a test call for knitting a basic worsted weight sock. And I've never knit a sock heavier than a fingering weight. So this has been an adventure. Oh, not really. It's the same concept, but it's just a little bit odd working with such thick yarn doing all the typical sock things. Here's what we have, and this is just made out of a worsted weight acrylic yarn. I finished the heel and I'm onto the foot, so I'm just about done, which is the crazy thing about it. It works up so quickly. I'm knitting this on the US size 5 double pointed needles, and I'm knitting it out of just an acrylic yarn. This is some stuff I had in my stash. I believe it's, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's from Michael's. It's the Impeccable Loops and Thread, just a standard worsted weight in this really pretty navy color, but it's kind of a marine blue. And it's been, like I said, very interesting to knit a sock in this such chunky yarn. I do not knit with worsted weight yarn very often at all, and so there's that, but then also doing, like I said, all of the sock related things but with really fat needles and yarn compared to what I'm used to. Been really enjoying it, and you should definitely keep an eye out for the video when it comes out. This is going to be a free pattern. It's just in development at the moment. There's not a whole lot more to say about it. It's a very basic vanilla sock, and it just, I don't know, it feels really interesting and really snug. It's going to be really well fitting, so I'm excited about that. Then the next project that I'm working on is last podcast episode. I showed you the freckle sock that I was working on for Sarah. I was doing that one as a test knit as well. The pattern has been published. I'll definitely link it down below. You should definitely check it out. It's such a fun pattern to knit. So I started the second sock and had very good intentions to work away at it and get it done quite quickly, but this is all that I have so far. And I don't actually have the finished sock with me. It's over in my sock drawer or sock basket because I wanted to wear it for a bit to make sure that I was okay with how the short row heel fit and everything before I can completely knit a second sock. And it fit fine. It felt really good. The picot edge cuff stayed up very well, so I'm super pleased with it. And I am working on the second sock, and as I mentioned before, I'm knitting this out of the Millimia Naturally Soft sock. I paired it with some of my own hand-dyed yarn, just on a standard sock weight, or sock base, merino or superwash merino nylon. But the project that distracted me from that was knitting another pair of socks for my husband. We've been kind of talking about it and joking back and forth, and he kept joking about how I never make him socks. And I was like, well, you don't wear them. And he's just like, well, they're not quite right exactly what I need, and I need him to be a little bit taller, and I do really like the socks. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Like, he does wear them, he just doesn't wear them all the time and he forgets that he has them. And then he's just like, oh yeah, I have socks. And I'm like, yeah, But I decided that I was going to go ahead and start making him a pair of socks. This is just a basic vanilla sock. The pizzazz will be added later. He plays a decent amount of video games, and one of his favorite video games that he's been playing for, I don't know, probably 15 years at this point, is Dota. And I'm going to what is it? Is it double stitch? I completely lost the term, but basically duplicate stitch, that's what it is. I'm going to duplicate stitch the Dota logo on the top of the socks. I finished the first one and I'm in the process of finishing the second one. I just finished the heel on it, so it's time to start doing the gusset decreases. And then I am going to block these socks before I do any duplicate stitching on it, because this yarn is really lovely to work with and I do really, really like it. But it is kind of uneven, and since I'm planning to duplicate stitch over top of it, I want the stitches to kind of even out. So I'm gonna wash it and block it and all of that, and then I'll duplicate stitch on top of it. But that is why I have not finished my second freckle sock, is because husband socks. Which, yeah, I really like it. It's turning out really well again. I'm a huge fan of this yarn. I'm definitely going to be getting some more at some point because it just feels so good for socks. It's one of those things where, because it's wool rather than like merino, it just wears so much better and it just seems to hold up a lot better. I have another pair of socks that I knit for myself a while ago. Don't remember what this is. This might have been a Regia yarn. I knit a pair of shorty socks out of this and I wear them all the time and they are holding up marvelously. It is amazing. And this is a wool polyamide. Come on, focus on it. There we go. It's a wool polyamide blend and I love it. So I'm super pleased with these because this yarn was definitely a lot cheaper than Regia yarn typically ends up being. And I got it off of Love Knitting. And for those of you that are curious who happen to remember, I am still working on my West Yorkshire spinner socks. I just haven't touched them a bit because I've got a couple of tuss knits for socks and husband socks. So these are still in progress. It's this beautiful West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply, which I also purchased off of Love Knitting. It's another wool nylon blend, so I'm super excited to see how these wear, and I'm definitely gonna have enough because this is a 100-gram skein. I'm definitely gonna have enough to knit one plain vanilla pair of socks and then one patterned pair, so I'm really happy about that. That's the sock saga. Let me see here. So I'm currently working on 4 different pairs of socks. I have issues, but that's okay because I like socks. Alrighty, so now that we're done with the socks, let's talk about some sweaters. I am in the process of knitting 2 different sweaters and I'm very tempted to cast on more. I don't know, I just feel like I'm in that mood. Actually, I want to cast on a shawl and a blanket. I'm just feeling the itch to have several different types of project on the go, so we'll see how I hold out. This is the Lofoten sweater, but also by Emily of the Blue Mouse Knits. I am knitting this out of my hand-dyed yarn in this mustard tweed and then in this variegated orange, blue, green, yellow, etc. Yeah, there's not too much to say about it. I think I'm knitting a size 4? I think I'm knitting the 4th size, the 40-inch bust. The pattern is designed to have quite a bit of positive ease, which isn't my thing. I don't mind having a bit of positive ease, but I think the pattern calls for like 10 inches of positive ease or something. So I just kind of have picked a size that's more close to my actual bust measurement. And I am onto the body. I have split for the sleeves. And I'm onto the body. I actually need to pause and try this on because I split for the sleeves a bit earlier than I did when I made this pattern before, because from what I remember in my previous variation, there was a ton of extra fabric underneath of my arms and I didn't really care for it. So I kind of eyeballed it and I tried it on before I split for the sleeves and I was like, okay, I think this is about right. So now that I've knit about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, I want to try it on again and just make sure that I haven't done it too soon. Which is actually a trick that I learned about watching Andrea Mowry's YouTube podcast, I'll Knit If I Want To. She mentioned that when she was talking about sweaters or something in one of her recent episodes, where she talked about how you can try it on before you split for the yoke and then knit a couple inches and then try it on again just to make sure that it's right, which I thought was such a great tip. The only hard part is that I don't have any of those fancy knitting barber cords that are going around the knitting community and everybody is talking about them. So I have to like actually like switch out my needles to a longer cable, and I don't know, there's just something about that really stops me working on a project. I'm like, ugh, I have to get my knitting needles and switch out the cable and blah. I just need to get over that. So far, so good. I'm a little bit, I don't know, worried about the color. I felt like it was pooling kind of funny, so I tried to do it alternating skein from the row I was pulling from the inside of the ball and the outside of the ball. And I feel like it was just making it worse, but now that I'm looking at it, it doesn't look too bad. I think that it is varied enough that it doesn't look like it's super pooling. The thing that made me really try and do that was I noticed that the light spots that are in the yarn were really like kind of pooling together, and I didn't care for that. So it's not bad or anything, but I think that that just made me a little bit like, ugh, I don't know, am I doing this all wrong? I think that once I try it on again and I'm sure that I'm on the right track, it'll go a lot faster. Because that's the other thing, is like now I'm kind of at that paused point because I knew I was gonna have to switch the needles out so that I could try it on, and it's so ridiculous. It doesn't take that long. It's like 5 minutes of switching things around. But I also hate like trying things on and changing my clothes and stuff. So I only do it like in the evening, right before, like right after I've taken off my clothes and put like my pajamas on and stuff. It's the only time that I would try on stuff, because I'm like, okay, I haven't put on any other clothes yet. I don't have to like take these clothes off and then put them back on. I hate changing clothes, guys. Like, it's one of my least favorite things to do. I am terrible about shopping. Like, ugh, hate changing clothes. It's one of those things where it's like, I will change my clothes once a day to get, or twice a day, to get it out of my PJs and to get into my PJs. I will avoid any other times at all costs. There's not too much more to say about this. I am knitting this on US size 4 needles, which I believe it's either 1 or 2 sizes down from what's called for in the pattern, which is partially why I picked the size 40-inch bust, because when I knit it last time, I felt like my stitches were quite loose and I could really see through the sweater, which I noticed this time. I don't know exactly what it is. I think what it is my cable is a little bit too big. That the tension here, up here, I love this. Like this part, it's great. But then down here where I switched to knitting with just this color, it seems like it got so much looser since I split for the sleeves, and I think it's just because I suddenly went from having way more stitches to having a lot fewer stitches, and I didn't change my cable length. And so I think that that's something else that I'm gonna do. Once I tried it on, if everything's looking good, I'm gonna change the cable length to a smaller cable, and I think that that'll correct the tension out, because I don't know what it is. Like, I guess maybe I'm having to stretch the stitches too much as I'm knitting it. I'm not sure, because I definitely like a much tighter tension or a tighter gauge on my sweaters. I don't like them to be very super see-through, if you will. I think that's about it. I'm super pumped about this. That's sweater number 1. And then sweater number 2. I love this thing so much. This is also why I haven't worked on that other sweater as much, is just because this one has been getting all of the love. I have just been knitting and knitting away on it. I think last time when I showed you, I was either just about to separate for the sleeves or somewhere around there. I'm not sure. And since then, this is the So Faded Sweater by Andrea Mowry. And I'm knitting this all out of my hand-dyed yarn, some stash yarns that I've had, in this pretty mauvey pink, and then this variegated, oh, I love this color so much. And I have actually just added the 3rd color, but you cannot tell, so let me get that out of here, which is this brown. It's kind of just a smoky sort of a brown. There's my mid color, and then mauvey pink. And I just am in love with it so much. Like, I think it is going to look so, so good. So I've split for the sleeves and I've knit probably about 5-6 inches from there. Something like that. I need to measure one of my other hand knit sweaters so I know how long I need to knit the body to get it that like perfect length. I've just started fading in for the 3rd color, and I I love it. And that's the other thing too, is that this one is definitely on a shorter cable, and I love my tension on here. Like it's going amazing. It's staying pretty consistent and the same throughout. So I really think that's my issue with the others, but with my Lofoten sweater. Lofoten. Lofoten. My Lofoten sweater is just the cable is too big. But yeah, there's not much else to say about it. It's going swimmingly. And I'm very, very tempted to cast on another one and just knit it all in garter stitch. Like, I just love how this garter stitch looks. It just looks so good. It's so cozy and squishy. I've knit the Wool and Honey sweater by Andrea Mowry, which is all, I can't remember if it's classified as garter stitch or reverse stockinette. It's so lovely. I love the texture, and it's just so squidgy. The one thing I would change about that sweater is that the neckline is just a little tight, and I'm like so I might have to cut that off at some point and re-knit it, but it works fine if I have like a collared shirt underneath, because that just pushes it open just a little bit. I tend to be a little bit sensitive if things are pushing like way here in my throat. I'm like, ah. I feel like I'm choking. I'm absolutely loving this project. It is going to be amazing, and I cannot wait to get it done. So like I said, that's kind of like, I'm thinking about knitting another one of these. I'm very tempted to cast on the, I've had it in my knitting library for a while. What's it called? Is it Wildwood? It's a shawl pattern by Andrea Mowry, and I love it because it kind of has hints of that traditional almost feather and fan stitch, which is so beautiful. I love it so much. I love that stitch, and I've never knit anything with that stitch, and I really, really need to. So I'm thinking about casting that on, and then I have these 3 skeins of random yarn, and I realized it would make a beautiful, is it called The Habitation Throw by Helen Stewart? It would look lovely. I can stripe the 3 colors. It would be super springy, like so springy, because it's a purple, a variegated speckled yarn, and a green, and it would look amazing. So I've been very tempted by those. But I was just like, you know, I have a ton of socks. I need to get some of these socks off of the needles first, and then we'll talk about a shawl and a blanket. Okay, so the crochet project that I was talking about, I thought I brought the yarn in here, but I didn't. I am still working on my sage green single crochet blanket project. I just wound up another skein of another ball of yarn for it today, because I just used up the one I was working on. So it's about, you know, yeah, you can't see my hands. It's just very plain and simple, and I've made a little bit of progress on it. So I didn't want to drag that up here. Yeah, so that's all that I've worked on with crochet. I haven't touched my little mushroom blanket that I've been working on. I'm hoping to get back to that one soon. But as you can see, I've been very distracted by socks. I do have a little bit of sewing to show you. I have an update. I made a hopefully wearable muslin of my Deer and Doe tie front shirt hack that I mentioned before. It's a little more cropped than I wanted it to be, which is why I say it's hopefully a wearable muslin. Let me put these snaps together so I can show it to you better. And I just made this out of a scrap of fabric that I had in my stash. I believe it was originally some cotton from Walmart, so super cheap. And it's just a little button front shirt, collar. Not much else to say about it. I think I made a decent amount of modifications to the pattern, so I couldn't really explain all of them without being really boring. But yeah, this is a hacked version of the Deer and Doe bluet dress, which is one of my favorite dress patterns of all time. I do really like it. I can't currently wear the versions that I've made, which is kind of sad, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out. Like I said, it's a little cropped, but other than that, it's about perfect. The shoulder fit, and I made it loose enough, and the ties are good. I was just working with a very small piece of fabric, and so I was like, oh, well, this is okay. I think I need to cut it shorter anyway, and I didn't. It should have stayed the full length that it was, but what can you do? There's that one. And then I ended up making a black, it looks so boring. It's a black maxi length jersey stretchy skirt thing that I think I mentioned the last time that I was working on making one, and that I didn't like how it turned out, so I needed to make another one. I made the other one, and this one turned out much, much better. And I think with this, I might be able to wear the cropped button up top, but I'm not 100% sure. This was just a made up pattern. I kind of measured my waist, did a fold over yoga pants style waistband, and I just kind of measured around my hips and added, I think, about 5 inches to that measurement. Because I really don't like super skin tight, like, I don't know, I feel like it just shows all my lumps and bumps and the lines of my underwear, and I don't like it. It makes me self-conscious, and I'm not normally self-conscious, but whenever I wear anything like that, I'm self-conscious, so I tend to stay away from it. And then I think it's like 35 inches or something, 30 something inches. Yeah, so super, super basic, simple yoga waistband skirt, which is going to be so comfortable. I kind of need to get some more spring-like fabric, but beggars can't be choosers, and this was fabric that Walmart had for super inexpensively, so it all worked out. But yeah, so other than that, I think that is all the creative things that I have been working on here recently. So we're gonna do a little bit of chit chat about some books that I've been reading, and then a show that I've been watching, and I guess a little bit of life updates too. Recently I have been reading The Happiness Project. It's right over here. Oh goodness, get out there. The Happiness Project by by Gretchen Rubin. And I just finished reading today the second book, which was Happier at Home. I love these books so much. It's basically Gretchen Rubin goes through a year. She goes through an entire year in the Happiness Project, and then in Happier at Home she goes through a school year. And throughout the year she really tries to work and focus on making herself happier by doing things that feel good, like things that are good for her and her family, and eliminating things that make her feel bad, things that are causing her stress, or what's the words that I could use? Stress or frustration or annoyance or things like that. It's such an inspiring book because it kind of makes you stop and think and consider different aspects of your life and how you can make yourself happier, because her big thing is to work on making yourself happier without doing anything crazy. It really resonates with me because I love my life and I don't really want to do anything crazy and big, but I know that I can make my life better and I can do better and I can be a better person if I work on some things. I really enjoy that. Like I said, I just finished reading Happier at Home, and I read these books ever since I found them. What was it? Maybe 4 or 5 years ago at this point. I've read them, I think, every single year since then. I really like her writing style, and they're just really encouraging and inspiring because it's sometimes, especially when we're busy and we have a lot going on, we can't do things that are crazy and wild, and we can't just up and leave and completely change our lives. So it's really nice to kind of stop and think about ways that you can change your life while living the life that you have. And I really enjoyed that about it. I do highly recommend those if you like them. I guess these are kind of classified as self-help books, but I kind of read it more as a memoir that makes me stop and think. So I've been reading those. I just started reading Whose Body by Dorothy L. Sayers, which was a book recommended by Miranda of Miranda Mills. She has a YouTube channel here, and I'll link it down below. I love it so much. And it's kind of another detective mystery sort of a novel. I think it's the first in the series about Lord Peter Wimsey, I think is the main character's name. I just started that. It sounds really good so far, but I'm not very far into it. So then, what have I been watching? So the last couple of days, I started rewatching the animated Redwall series, which It's so fun to watch because one, it's Redwall related, two, there's a little bit of nostalgia because I watched it with my younger siblings a few years ago now. It's ridiculous. It's like so many other book to movie or TV show adaptations where it's terribly inaccurate from the book. They change characters, they add characters, they throw in elements that were absolutely not in the book. They make all these different things happen that did not happen in the book. But it's fun. It's Redwall, it's animals, it's animated, and I've been watching it while I've been knitting on these socks and working on my blanket. And I've really been enjoying it. The whole series is on YouTube. Somebody has uploaded it in like super high quality, so that's been really fun too. Yeah, if you like the Redwall series, you can watch it. Just know that it is incredibly inaccurate. It's not exactly like the book. The book is much superior, but to be honest, that's what I think about 99% of the book to movie adaptations that I've seen. Other than that, not too much has been going on. It's been kind of life as usual, cozy, quiet, pretty chill. The life update thing that I feel like I should mention at this point, I'm pregnant. I'm just over 20 weeks pregnant, so I'm over halfway, and I realized, you know, I've definitely hinted at it here and there here on the channel, but I haven't exactly spelt it out. But we were able to, just recently, Mike and I were able to go and have an ultrasound done, and we were able to find out that we're having a little baby boy, which is very exciting. So I was kind of waiting till that point because I wanted to see the baby, because I don't quite believe that I'm actually pregnant, even though I'm halfway. It just doesn't, it hasn't completely registered because it's something that I've wanted for such a long time, to be a mum, a stay-at-home mum, and it's kind of hard to believe that it's actually happening now. That's kind of an exciting thing, which explains why I'm not able to wear certain clothes anymore and why I've really needed to make some more clothes, because I'm not properly showing it, but it's definitely there. Yeah, other than that, I don't have too much else to say. I think I'm just gonna go and chill and work on some socks some more. I need to eat something. I'm kind of hungry. That is the one thing with being pregnant. Now that I can actually eat stuff, I really have to eat like every 2 to 3 hours, because otherwise I get like sick hungry, which is kind of weird. Still adjusting to that. Pregnancy overall has been mostly positive. It's been rough in patches, but I'm just so grateful and happy to be pregnant that really usually outweighs some of the not so easy stuff, because it hasn't been the easiest thing. But everything's doing well, I'm doing well, baby's doing well, Mike is doing well, we're all good. Oh, I just say that and I think he's moving in there. Yeah, so yep, that's it. That's all I've got for you. If you watched my fabric stash show and tell that I put up last week, thank you. I am hoping to do more of those in between podcast episode videos. I'm in the process of filming a week in the life video this week, so that'll be coming out shortly. And then, like I said, in the fabric show and tell, the fabric tour, I'm going to be doing videos potentially about each of the different fabrics as I use them up. And then I'm working on getting a video series put together in my head for doing a series talking about the Redwall books, which I'm really nervous about because I love them so much, and I'm really scared that I'm not going to do it justice to talk about them and that people won't be interested and nobody will want to listen to that. But I have to tell that voice to be quiet, and I don't know, the Redwall series is something that I am so passionate about and I love so very much. I want to talk about it. And so I just need to get over that naysaying voice and push through and do it anyway. Thank you so much for sitting down and hanging out with me today and listening to me talk about all of my projects. I would love to know what you're working on, if you have any sweaters on the go or if you have any plans for knitting or making projects. Yeah, I would really love to hear about it. Thank you for spending time with me today. It's been good. It's been kind of a chill, quiet day, and I didn't feel too great this morning, so I'm glad that I was able to push through and able to podcast. I will be back hopefully in a couple weeks with another podcast episode, and then hopefully next week there will be another in-between video up, which I hope that you enjoy. So thank you for hanging out with me, and I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you all next time. Bye.